I'm gonna call this meeting to order at 6:01 p.m. Wednesday, November 16th. You guys, could you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Sure. If you stand up, sure. Right hand over your heart. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Miguel. Okay. Gabriel, can we get roll call?
Yes, Commissioner Leal,
Present.
alternate Commissioner Gutierrez, absent. Commissioner Gonzalez, and I believe you mentioned he was on his way, so he's right now absent, but we'll see in a minute. Commissioner Figueroa,
Present.
Vice Chair Navarrete,
Present.
Chair Virgen is absent.
Thank you, Gabe. Okay, at this moment, we're going to go on to the approval of the agenda. At this time, the commission may announce any items being pulled from the agenda or continue to another date or request the moving of the item on the agenda. Do we have anything from commissioners? All right.
Today.
Do we have a motion?
Sorry about that.
Here.
I guess let the record be known that Commissioner Gonzalez just arrived and also alternate Commissioner Gutierrez. And Chair, if you wish, you could inform alternate Commissioner if you'd like to sit up on the bench with the rest of the commission.
Mr. Gutierrez, you would like you to join us here. Okay. So I'm just going to go over the approval of the agenda again, guys. So at this time, the commission may announce any items being pulled from the agenda or continue to another date or request the moving of an item on the agenda. Does anybody have anything to change? No? Do we have a motion?
Go ahead, motion to approve the
Second.
minutes.
We get roll call, Gabe?
Who is the second?
Uh,
Gutierrez, alternate Commissioner?
Yep.
Okay. Roll call, Commissioner Leal,
Aye.
alternate Commissioner Gutierrez,
Aye.
Commissioner Gonzalez,
Aye.
Commissioner Figueroa,
Aye.
Vice Chair Navarrete,
Aye.
Chair Virgen, absent.
Awesome. All right, now on to the approval of the minutes. So Planning Commission minutes on October 26th, 2022 and November 2nd, 2022.
And then if there's no changes to the minutes, then someone need to make a motion for
Yeah.
approval of the minutes.
Do we have anyone's motion?
Go ahead on motion to approve the minutes from October 26th and November 2nd.
If we a roll call.
Okay, so that was motion by Commissioner Leal, and
Mhm.
second by Gutierrez, right? Okay, roll call, Commissioner Leal,
Aye.
alternate Commissioner Gutierrez,
Aye.
Commissioner Gonzalez,
Aye.
Commissioner Figueroa,
Aye.
Vice Chair Navarrete,
Abstain.
and Chair Virgen is absent.
All right, now on to our written communications. Gabe, do we have anything?
None from staff.
All right, we're gonna go ahead and jump along to our public comments on non-agenda items. The public may address the commission on any item of interest to the public that is not on the agenda, but is within the subject jurisdiction thereof. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Do we have anyone in in the panel? None? Yeah. So that means public comment was opened at 6:06. I'll also close public comments at 6:06. Now on to our reports and requests. Do we have any?
No reports.
Moving on, checking along, our non-hearing items. So the Harrison corridor study.
Okay, thank you, Commission. I'll make this a quick presentation. And I have a PowerPoint for this one. No, there should be. Thank you, Commissioners. I wanted to present this item because this was a study that the city of Coachella did back in 2010, 2011. We received a Caltrans grant to study future development of the Harrison Street corridor. And it's no longer called Harrison Street. It's called Cesar Chavez Street now. So we received that grant and it looked at some scenarios for future growth. And it also looked at Harrison Street because there were a lot of fatalities being experienced due to pedestrians crossing the street. It was kind of unsafe at the time. So this was a way to look at making the street safer for the future. And there's some benefits that we've seen recently. So Harrison Street, these are old images. That's why it's going to say Harrison Street, right? Obviously, we know it's Cesar Chavez. So it looked at the different segments of the street, all the way from Grapefruit at Cesar Chavez, all the way down to Avenue 54. And so we worked with a consultant group called Opticos and the local government commission. This is our existing general plan roadway section. And so you could see it accommodates 2 lanes in each direction and a bike lane. And one of the things that I want to point out, it calls out this landscape buffer between the sidewalk and the curb, which is one of the reasons why I stress it that when we have projects that come before the Plan Commission, because it's in our general plan. So the study looked at the intersection of Grapefruit Boulevard and Harrison Street. And in that study, they recommended the possibility of a roundabout in the future as a way to prevent stop and go traffic. Instead, it would maintain the continuous flow of traffic, and therefore kind of saving time, because obviously if you don't have to make a stop, then you're saving time at the destination. And then it showed the potential development pattern for this area if it had a roundabout there. So kind of at that intersection, you can kind of see where KFC is right at that corner. And then the other corner is the I call it the Ranch Market Shopping Center. I'm not sure if it has an official name. And I think they anticipated, with not having that side street that goes up north along Grapefruit, that would free up land that could accommodate a transit center in the future. But that never happened, right? So, but it did give a visualization of what that could look like in the future if there was a roundabout. And then they made some recommendations, right, on how to improve this stretch between Cesar Chavez, Grapefruit, all the way down to Avenue 50. So wider sidewalks, bike lanes, landscape medians, mid-block crossings for pedestrians. So it kind of assumed more of an urban setting, less vehicle oriented, more for pedestrians. So if you look at this image, you could see it had the roundabouts at that intersection I mentioned, and also Avenue 50. And for the Ranch Market Shopping Center, it contemplated more buildings that actually went all the way up to Cesar Chavez Street. And then you can kind of see tree-lined streets, and then the shopping center with the, I believe it's the Dollar Tree and the Smart and Final. You can see just the different development pattern, and it anticipates. And then it assumed there could be a street that connected between that shopping center and the Ranch Market Shopping Center. So a different way to look at development for this corridor, definitely. And it saw that the existing street at that time looked like this, where it had 2 lanes of traffic in each direction. It was a very wide street. And instead it recommended on one side that it be like include a frontage road, and then still have 2 lanes in each direction. So if we go back to this, you can kind of see the frontage road on the Ranch Market Shopping Center side that would be accommodated with this street section here. So that's what was contemplated then. Let's see. So moving on, this is an old picture from that time. And this is the location where they anticipated the roundabout, Avenue 50 and Cesar Chavez. So that would be the roundabout that was anticipated. Now that could be complicated, right? Because for traffic reasons, and also ensuring that you have the sufficient right of way to acquire for that.
That has the bridge there, right?
And there's the bridge.
The bridge, that was probably before the bridge came when they did this original roundabout, right?
I think it might have been, definitely was before the Walgreens went in, for sure.
Mhm.
You can see in that picture. The next stretch was between Avenue 50 and Westerfeld Way or First Street. So what's now the Fountainhead Shopping Center with Starbucks and Walgreens. Here in this image, there was nothing there. On the other side, you have the Cardenas, and then the Planet Fitness. So it said maintain 4 lanes of traffic, include a landscape median, bike lanes, wider sidewalks, curb extensions, and mid-block crossings at 400-foot intervals. And so anticipated, hey, this is what development could look like in those 2 shopping centers. Now, this didn't necessarily happen, right? So I think on the left-hand side, it assumed that shopping center could adapt to be a shopping center like this, where you could actually build more buildings and it'd be more pedestrian oriented. And then the Fountainhead Plaza actually could be more pedestrian oriented. Now, it didn't necessarily develop that way. It was more drive-throughs, but you could see more of the building orientation towards the street. And then trying to have the parking lots that were more internal to the buildings, right? Or how they're clustered. And so that was an interesting concept at the time. I think at that time, they anticipated the Walgreens was going in there. That's why you see that box up there by the roundabout at 50 and Cesar Chavez. And also assumed mid-block crossings, so for pedestrians to be able to cross the street. So you see some of this further south on Cesar Chavez Street. And then the street section, instead of the top, would look like the bottom. And then you would have buildings coming up to the sidewalk. And that's what it looked like at the time. And then Harrison Street at Westerfield, they would have those bulb outs. And actually instead, they anticipated, hey, you might be able to parking on Cesar Chavez Street. So it assumed those curb extensions, a lot of those curb extensions you really see on downtown 6th Street, right? And then this was a larger look at the development they contemplated at that time. So they called it the northern node. And then you can see just the types of buildings that they contemplated at the The next stretch was Harrison Street or Cesar Chavez Street between First Street and Avenue 51 or 4th Street. And so this was before all the development started happening out there. And before the Pueblo Viejo Villas. And so this is what was visualized at the time. So it was called the downtown node, and it anticipated the same thing, right? Try to have buildings lined up to the street and put parking lots internal. And then you can see 6th Street, it anticipated this little park, maybe that it had 6th Street would go around with 1 lane around the northern part of the park, and then the eastbound part of the street would actually be on the south part of the park. But you know, with the Pueblo Viejo Villas, it kind of follows this concept. And then to the south of that, you could see it anticipated buildings up to the street. So you kind of have that with the recent project that was approved, the Triple E development. And then just development along 6th Street as well. And then kind of like a tree-lined Cesar Chavez Street. Anticipated a new plaza on the east side of Cesar Chavez Street. New street connections with the downtown streets. So it's just an interesting concept at the time. At Baghdad Avenue, this is actually what it used to look like at that time. And they recommended this. And if you go up there today, that's there, right?
Yeah.
So this grant was helpful to help facilitate getting these improvements on Cesar Chavez Street to connect Baghdad Avenue to connect to where Baguma Park is. The next stretch between Baghdad Avenue and Avenue 52. So this is some of the buildings that look the same way today. So at 52 and Cesar Chavez, it anticipated a roundabout there, and this is what it could look like. That's it. The next one is Cesar Chavez between Avenue 52 and 53. So it anticipated development could look like this. And I actually think this is a really good concept that we should think about. It's actually in the general plan. It says, Plan Commission, Council, when you consider development, really consider this plan and how it conceived of development lined up to the street. If you look at this plan, at the north, it's Avenue 52. And then you can see the church in there, right? So the church was being contemplated at the time at Avenue 53 and Cesar Chavez. And so the church was kind of built in this, according to these recommendations. So, but you can see there's a lot of vacant land in those commercial parcels. So kind of thinking about what are the possibilities in terms of future development there. And this is Avenue 52, Cesar Chavez. At that time, there was a frontage road, right? So with the Del Taco, that frontage road, that portion was dedicated to that development. And then, yeah, there's the frontage road that continues south, and it used to be landscaped with turf. So this is the type of development that was contemplated. Bring the buildings all the way up to the street and have these mid-block crossings when you can, and then landscape your medians and have the streets lined with trees. This was the development concept for Avenue 53 and Cesar Chavez with the church, and then with buildings going up to the street. And so in this development concept, it contemplated that the frontage streets would actually not exist anymore. That land would be dedicated to buildings that would go all the way up to Cesar Chavez Street. And then this is right before the church was going to be built.
When they built the church on that one, they didn't have the indent. They didn't do the indent for the Sambas, huh?
I don't think so, right? It's not there.
No, it just sits there. It just sits the same.
Yeah, and I'm not sure why that didn't happen.
So do we have a timeline in terms of when we, on these roundabouts? Like on 52?
Yeah, it hasn't come up yet. Because I think as far as the roundabouts that were kind of recommended by the consultant, it kind of was placed on the shelf.
Yeah, the reason I say that because on the stacking coming onto 52 East, there's only like 3 or 4 cars that are available. So what happens, it holds up the lane going south. And, usually you'll have at least a stacking of at least 5 to 10 cars,
Yeah.
on this one here, there's only 3, so it obviously blocks that whole corridor going south, so I don't know, something to think about. I don't know, maybe we can bring that to the attention of the engineering department.
Yeah, and Andrew's in the call because he's going to participate in the next.
Yeah,
item
because
as
I've
well.
had a lot of comments from, just residents that have approached me
Okay.
and asked me, hey, why so little stacking,
Yeah.
And then, like I said, you block that whole corridor there going south.
Yeah. I'll ask Andrew to chime in a little bit because he's working on some plans for Avenue 52.
Okay.
I'll like share what those are. And then this is the street section that was recommended between Avenue 53 and 54.
I think one of the other things too is that we have to look at it realistically with CBAG and look at the expanding of Avenue 52. Eventually, we're gonna have to take that on, and it's a concern because it's really another public safety issue there. So we have to get the ball rolling, do some conceptual drawings, and start looking at widening that whole 52 Avenue. I'm sure that we're gonna have to wipe out some houses and look at what's gonna be the most cost efficient, but I've been bringing that up for a long time, and we still haven't got even to the conceptual drawing stage.
Yeah. I'll ask Andrew to chime in because he probably could let you know what he's working on right now. But just to finish up this presentation, there were some short-term projects that were recommended at the time, narrowing vehicle lanes, including more bike lanes, which you do see today. They used to have bike lanes there. Have parking aisles on the street which don't exist today. Lowering speed limits, adjusting enforcement. And then immediate safety improvements at school locations as possible. So that's why you see some of the mid-block crossings that were supposed to, I think those were safe routes to school improvements. And then they had some medium-term projects such as clean the roundabouts, mid-block crossings, and then long-term projects, which would be other roundabouts, landscape and gateway features. So just wanted to point this out because in our general plan, this is the language that it has. So if we have development along Cesar Chavez, there is some policy direction where it says new development to follow the vision, the design direction presented in the 2011 report, improving neighborhood connections along Coachella Harrison Street corridor. And then number 2, where it just says pursue revitalization of the corridor as proposed in that plan. So when you see new projects come before you, kind of think about that, right? Think about like this plan and how it envisioned development. And, if you really want the developer to maintain that vision, you have the ability to do that with your consistency findings with the general plan. So that's really it. I just wanted to show you that because when we do plans at the city, a lot of times I don't like that they would sit on the shelf. It's an opportunity for us to discuss them and talk about them policy wise. And there were some good recommendations there. Andrew, if you're on the call right now, do you have any comments on Avenue 52, what you're working on?
Yeah, I mean, so the comment was specifically about future plans to widen Avenue 52 and bring it to its ultimate width, correct?
Yes.
So I would say right now Avenue 52 isn't one of our top priority streets for widening for the section between Cesar Chavez and Shady. Right now, we're focusing our energy on Avenue 50 to complete that widening project. And then also Avenue 48 to complete the widening on that road. one of the constraints as far as widening Avenue 52 to its ultimate width is right of way, because there are existing homes fairly densely packed throughout that entire area. So we have looked at that, and we have looked at preliminary concepts for widening, and it requires acquiring up to 21 homes in order to complete that. So the right of way acquisition needs in order to complete that project are very expensive and a little bit daunting. But as of right now, we have just awarded a project, and we are doing some improvements on Avenue 52 in that section that'll be coming very soon. Right now, because it is such a dense pedestrian neighborhood on the south side of Avenue 52, and then the north side of Avenue 52 ties directly into our downtown area, we are doing some pedestrian improvements. So improvements that actually look kind of more similar to the plans that Gabriel has been presenting here tonight. So we'll be doing some medians for pedestrian refuge, crosswalks, in order to enhance and improve the pedestrian safety and some of that pedestrian mobility across 52. So we're actually putting enhanced crosswalks at Tripoli and 52, Las Palmas and 52, Shady and 52, and Genoa and 52, where we'll be putting in small pedestrian refuge medians. We'll be putting enhancements for crosswalk signs, the lighted flashing crosswalks, and improving the pedestrian mobility on 52. And then in the future, after Avenue 50 is taken care of and Avenue 48 is taken care of, we will continue to look at putting plans together for the widening Avenue 52 to an ultimate width. But again, one of the strongest deterrences from being able to complete that project are the right-of-way needs in order to complete that last section that hasn't been widened yet between Cesar Chavez and Shady.
I think one of the, we have from Shady Lane to the expressway is
Yes.
already, wide enough.
Yes,
I think from Fast Trip to Calhoun would be something to consider, widening that area. Then obviously it's going to bottleneck into from Cesar Chavez to Shady Lane.
yes,
I know that's going to be a major undertaking, but I think the important point is that, we need to, start looking at it realistically, because eventually we're going to have to tackle that on, and at least we get the ball rolling. And it is going to be a major undertaking, because like I said, either we'll go south and wipe those houses out and then put a medium and then have them just go one way on the houses that exist. I mean, that would be another option. Or wipe the entire houses out and make like a walkway on whatever's left over that's not taken as part of the expansion plan. So I think there's a couple different options that, we could look at, but that's gonna have to be addressed eventually.
it will. I agree.
Commissioner, I just want to let you know that that's the end of my presentation, and there's no action you need to take on this. It's just a receive and file.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Gabe. Okay, now we're gonna move on to our public hearing calendar, or quasi judicial. Okay, item number 3, McDonald's restaurant drive-through reconfiguration. Okay,
Thank you, Vice Chair, members of the commission. So this item is McDonald's restaurant drive-through reconfiguration, which was continued from the last meeting. And I have a brief presentation. This is a vicinity map. So this is located within that Fountainhead Plaza between Avenue 50 and First Street on Cesar Chavez Street. So the McDonald's is existing, and this was this is the condition that we experienced at the McDonald's, where the stacking was kind of falling out of the actual drive-through, and they had to put in cones to keep traffic coming in, but this was spilling out into the main drive aisle. And here's some existing photos around McDonald's. So this is the north end, so you can kind of see the parking lot. where a lot of people park today. The rest of the parking lot kind of facing Cesar Chavez Street. And this is actually the original location of where the drive-through used to start.
Mhm.
And it was a horseshoe around. So actually did a good job at accommodating all the vehicles that needed to queue in the drive-through. But then I think at that time, staff thought that what they were recommending was going to be a better solution than also accommodating the outdoor dining. At least when I go, I don't see it occupied too much, and I could be wrong, but maybe like the intended approach with the drive-through wasn't achieved, right? And so that's why we're looking at this. This is an exhibit that shows where traffic is being funneled to the drive-through. So instead of that other picture I showed you, it's actually oriented in this way. So you'd have to come around the main drive aisle, around the McDonald's, and then this way to the drive-through.
Isn't the trash enclosure on that corner there?
Yeah, you could.
So
barely
it's,
see
it's
it.
not identified here. Are they moving it or?
Yeah, they're gonna move it. Yeah,
Okay,
and I'll go into that. And then these parking stalls, were on.
those are going over here.
So this is, if you went on Google, go on Google, this is the aerial that you'll see, and you'll see what was happening there. And so those cars were queuing all the way out into the main drive aisle. And so when we
Makes
saw
sense.
this, and some of the planning commissioners had brought this up, that this potentially would have caused problems for people trying to go to Starbucks and in the future Aldi, right? So this was raised attention of the McDonald's management, and they were interested in addressing this issue as well. So this is the original site design that showed that horseshoe drive-through. And then it changed to this, where you have the outdoor dining near the entrance. And then you have the two queuing lanes where you order immediately, and then you continue into the drive-through. And so it was causing conflicts because you come around the McDonald's, or you can come into the drive-through lane from the main drive aisle. And so kind of created that conflict there. So what's proposed is this. In order to accommodate more stacking, they propose that you would come in through Cesar Chavez, go up through the main center drive aisle, come up to the parking lot at the north end of McDonald's, come around the McDonald's into the drive-through lane. Now, this accommodates quite a few vehicles. I think it's 15 or more in this configuration. So you first start with one lane, and then it fans out to two to do the ordering, and then back into one. With this configuration, you can kind of see that's actually a stripe. That's actually not a landscape planner, the north of that drive-through lane. So the Plan Commission can comment on that if you want that to be curbed in landscape. The applicant's not proposing that. And I asked the applicant why they were proposing it. They said that they want the flexibility in case there's a possibility that this doesn't work. I think this is gonna work.
So you're talking about that corner down here, right?
Yeah. Let me see if I can point it out.
What's the capacity around the stacking today?
Oh, I think it's maybe like,
I think it's only like 4, 5, 6, 7 or so.
yeah. I think
So
it makes it like
basically
8
doubling
people.
it.
Yeah, basically doubling it. So
Okay,
that's why I think it'll work. So this is the striped area that I'm talking about right here. So this is not curbing and landscape that we typically require for drive-throughs. The
So-
landscape would exist here. So when I asked them why they would do this, it's because they mentioned that this allows for flexibility if this doesn't work.
okay, so what's the other option if it doesn't work? I mean, what are they proposing? Because like I said, if they're gonna, there's another option, then we should look at that other option,
The only other option I think, and Andrew might weigh in on this, is going back to the original and taking off the outdoor dining.
It's,
And
we're gonna be
so-
probably, but the same capacity, I mean, it's not gonna, change that
And
much.
The applicants in the audience too, so when it's time for them to speak, they might have some recommendations too.
Yeah.
But that was what was brought up to me.
This looks like the La Quinta in LQ,
Yeah.
kind of the design's like the one in LQ.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah, and they stack a lot, so.
I think this is, it would work, you know.
For this to work, parking has to be removed and there has to be a secondary exit that's accommodated. That's why this is would be cut out. We did have concerns about,
Stacking there.
well, people coming in and wanting to cut in. And so we brought this up, and then I think they made some adjustments where we think this is gonna work and it'll be blocked off right here by this median.
Would that then, because does that have to be only a one-way out, kind of? Would that be an option?
Yeah,
Or
it's
that's
only
only
one way
one way
out.
out? Okay.
Yeah. So that's the only way that this works. And then I'm gonna go into the.
That's
Right.
common, that's
The-
common anyway.
So our required stacking is 8 vehicles minimum with 20 feet per vehicle. And what always needs to happen is the drive-through lane needs to be designed so it doesn't interfere with circulation of the parking lot. But what we found out with what was approved, it was interfering with the orderly circulation of the parking lot, right? And the other thing is that the drive-through lane shall not encroach upon the block or block driveways or parking spaces. And that was happening as well. So we can't even make the findings for the existing CUP. As far as parking, there are 41 parking spaces on the pad. And the minimum requirement is 24 spaces, so there's a surplus of 17 parking spaces. They propose to remove 15 parking spaces. 13 would be the southerly ones, which I'll point out in a second. And 2 would be northerly parking spaces to accommodate the relocated trash enclosure. So this is what would be removed. So at the north, see that box? Kind of slow right here. This would be the location where the trash enclosure is relocated. Currently, the trash enclosure is here. And then these 13 spaces would be removed. It's a lot of spaces, but when we did the analysis, is that they're over parked. And if you go out there, it's not entirely full all the time. So I think it's okay. This is going to resolve a better situation. Now, what happens is that original access point that most people were accessing the drive-through is actually cut off in the new site plan.
There's a in Beaumont. There's a similar design that's being proposed here. And I parked there at the gas station, and there was vehicles cutting in where at the point of where you order. Is that possible here?
I don't think
Because adjacent to McDonald's, that's in the future, there could be another development.
yeah, I mean,
Does a possibility exist of cutting in right where the ordering takes place? Because
No, they have a
that was
big-
happening at the moment.
They have a
Is it-
medium there, so I mean, you can't really. There's two
Yeah.
different order boards.
No, pero from the eastern side.
oh, no, because so
That's
this
a
is
curb.
cut off
They're
now.
covering that up.
So this will be a curb and
There's
this
a curb
blocks
with a medium.
traffic from being able
That's
to come into
landscaped
the
right there.
drive-through.
Yeah, they're closing that off
Oh,
also.
sorry about that. Let me go back to it.
No, that's closed off.
Yeah, this gets closed off and.
And they have
landscaped.
two order boards. You have a medium in between the two
Oh,
order
this is
boards.
landscape.
Yeah, because in Beaumont, they don't have the.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
if they would have left that open, then
They
they would
just
have done
come in
that.
and.
But that's what's happening right now.
Uh-huh.
It's open, so people just.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. it's
So
just-
one of the conditions that we added was with this trash enclosure here, just to make sure that there are vines planted on the side and that there's curbs so that you don't just open up your door and the wall of the trash enclosure. The other is regarding the landscaping on site. So like we noticed the landscaping was not in a good condition. Now, the way that the landscaping works for the McDonald's pad, they're responsible for the landscape. So it's not Fountainhead Development that's responsible for it. So we had that previous discussion. So Fountainhead is responsible for all the common areas, which is the frontage areas along Cesar Chavez. So everything that you see here, this is kind of like when you enter the shopping center, you'll see this on your left-hand side. And that's the landscaping that's out there. So it hasn't been maintained well. And so one of the conditions that we're recommending is that there be a landscape agreement with the city like we did before, and that they rehab this prior to the drive-through being reconfigured. And so you'll see that in your conditions of approval. You can see some of the flooding that we were seeing out there. So if it was better maintained, it's gonna be a good look because of the new landscaping improvements they did at Starbucks. So, you know, based on what the applicant presented, staff does recommend approval of the resolution that was prepared for the conditional use permit and an amendment to the original architecture review 15-12 with the findings and conditions of approval in the resolution. And so just a couple of things I wanted to point out in the conditions of approval is that, so we mentioned the landscape improvements. So they would have to present final landscape plans because they are introducing new landscape areas, but at the same time that they are doing that they replace any of the dead, damaged, decayed landscaping. That they introduced the 3/4 inch decorative gravel that you see in the new part of the shopping center, and that we have a maintenance agreement. Something that would be good for the Plan Commission to weigh in on, if you're okay with the striped area that delineates the drive-through as proposed, that's fine. But the code does identify that it should be like a curved in the landscape area. So I want the Plan Commission to weigh in on that. But that's the end of my report. If you have any questions, let me know. The applicant should be waiting in the audience, and his last name is Mr. Priest.
I think that we should put that curb in, because what Ventura was saying earlier is that they're gonna be cutting in. So if there isn't a curb there, you're gonna have people shooting across that parking lot and actually trying to get in front of the people that are already stacking, you know, from the entryway. So I think there should be some type of straight face curb there, maybe a landscape area around there.
Even if it's not a per se landscape, even if they think it's in the question is how, you know, question for the applicant is, why do they think it's going to be temporary or it's not going to work? It won't work if you don't put anything there. That's my comment. It won't work because then you just, like Ventura said, is gonna shoot through. But maybe if they don't want to do landscaping, there's also putting those concrete that they use sometimes to do to delineate the difference, if that's what they wanted, if it's cost prohibited. But I think it would look nicer if it's landscaped and it's just consistent with the landscaping.
Yeah.
Because you're gonna be waiting in line and once it's gonna delineate, because then you have this whole new brand new build out of this complex, and then this other side is just kind of cutting the pieces together. So those are just my comments on that.
I think that we should also, I agree with the fellow commissioners where we should just do the curb. I think it's gonna look aesthetically pleasing, and then it's gonna also prevent cars from coming in. And it's also like I stated before, the In-N-Out and La Quinta kind of has a similar shape, and they also do have that landscaping where then things don't get skewed where people try to come and go as they please.
And because it's gonna be a one-way, it won't have that, it prevents that stacking from people coming in right there and turning. It's just gonna be an exit. So that piece.
Any other comments from my fellow commissioners before we open up public comment?
They're gonna put any signs in this entry
We
or this
haven't,
right through?
we haven't.
Should have a
seen-
lighter sign in the
But
entryway.
I don't think we've seen any signage on this yet, but they would have to submit that with their site improvement plan. So they'd be more like what do you call it?
Drive-through
Directional
entrance.
sign.
Right there, I see a number 36, which says, do not enter sign facing the right.
Yeah.
That'll be a right turn only.
Yeah, but we don't have any like images that show what those signs are gonna look like.
Or the right through,
Drive-through
Sign,
entrance or something.
right.
Because they're gonna have to have directional signs that show where the drive-through is at.
Mhm.
But like even on the floor also, like, you know, some of them like drive through this way.
Right, at the arrows.
Mhm.
And it looks like it shows it on the floor.
Oh, there it
Right
is,
through.
yeah.
There.
Drive through.
The arrows, okay.
Yeah, on the big one.
On that R2, that's usually where they'll put the drive-through entrance, a lighted sign there.
All right, so if we don't have any more comments, I'm gonna go ahead and open up our public comments at 6:47 PM. And I do see that someone has their hand up.
Good evening, staff. I'm Robert Priest, Design UA. We are the architect engineer for the project for McDonald's and for the store owner. Making sure you can hear me okay, first of all. Good, perfect. So far, thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Gabriel, for helping us on this one. Getting to this point. Obviously, we saw the problem that was happening out there with the drive-through when it was first modified in 2016 or 2017. Forget when that was. And ultimately at the time, going from single lane to double lane, the idea is you can get cars put through the drive-through faster. Unfortunately, the negative that happened on this one is we lost a little bit of the stacking, and it opened up two options for people to come in. So much like the commissioners were saying, you have someone cutting in from the east while other people are stacking off to the west, and it doesn't lead to good traffic issue, or leads to traffic issues. So much like it came up from the city and from staff, that something needed to be done on that, especially with the development for the Fountainhead development off to the east and then to the south. Fortunately, the timing came up about the same time as that. So now is the time to look at closing that drive entrance on the east. Overall, just to touch base on a couple of the comments. One being the painting of the delineation between the drive-through stacking and the 7 parking stalls that are up basically off to the north. It was kind of twofold. I wouldn't necessarily lean towards the flexibility if it doesn't work, because I think at this point, based on closing in the east, it's kind of going to be landlocked. It's going to be what it's going to be. And again, we all think it's going to work. It should. I think one of the bigger issues, kind of us, not really on my side, but talking to the operator that runs this store, a lot of it, I guess, comes down pretty much to cost and speed of how quick we can install this fix. Today it's out there, it just has K-rails blocking it and some cones. But ultimately, we don't necessarily want to have to shut the drive-through down for too long, just from what our customers expect this to be open. So the more work we do out there, the longer it's gonna be closed down. So the idea was to come in and close that drive to the east using new landscaping, using concrete curbs, tying into the existing. That becomes the bulk of our main construction. And then while that's happening, the drive-through can stay operational because the parking aisle is still there. And then to separate basically the parking from the drive-through, they could come in and just stripe that pretty fast. So the idea was really speed of construction and keeping costs a little lower. Ultimately, all the cost of this project falls on the operator. It's not a McDonald's driven initiative. So trying to keep costs down for them is the biggest thing we're looking at kind of here, but still meeting what the city needed to do and what we needed to do to be a good neighbor to Aldi across the street and Starbucks on the south, so that all can kind of coexist. Landscaping wise, yeah, I saw the pictures again. It looks like it's a little dilapidated. So part of this, we've already done landscape plans, was to come in and refresh all the landscaping that is there. as well as re-landscape, the new driveway closure on the east. And then the exit is a one-way exit going in the south. And again, working with Gabriel and Andrew, just to pull that as far as we can to the east, so that the median is blocking it. But it's still lining up with the traffic pattern that's running north-south already in front of the McDonald's there. So I think where we're at today is a good solution, really from everyone's part there. And then signage wise, the sign company is working on a sign packet. It probably is done. I'll follow up on it, but there's already some existing directionals that are there and built. One's right behind the trash enclosure and another one's a little bit further up north. So ultimately, all we need to do with those is reface those to new copy on them to give a little bit better directional for the new traffic pattern. So again, any questions that you have for me, feel free, let me know. And I'm here to answer anything that you might have.
You guys don't share a mutual parking space with Taco Bell, huh? Because I don't see, they're not as busy as McDonald's, obviously, and then that's quite a few spaces going from 48 to 33 spaces, so.
Yeah, and talking to the owner of the store, as far as what they use, McDonald's in general does a pretty large drive-through business versus lobby. So looking at it, a lot of owners don't want to lose 13 spaces, especially on that south side. But this one, given how much parking we have, most of it's open most of the time. We don't anticipate having any issues there. So in order to get the stacking where it needs to be, losing those spaces was kind of priority one for us.
And Commissioner Gonzalez, one thing is that in the shopping center, there's reciprocal parking between all the pads. So if you go out to Taco Bell, the parking lot isn't too full during the day.
Oh, that's what I'm saying, it's
Yeah, so it wouldn't be, I don't see there being a problem.
okay. That's why I brought it up, every time I go by there, it's parking lot's pretty empty, so.
Yeah.
I usually use the drive-through or very little people parking in the lot, most of the time it's empty.
Do we have anybody else on the attendance? So at this time, at 6:53 PM, I'm gonna go ahead and close our public comment. Item number 3. Any of the commissioners have any last comments or want to make a motion?
Considering the cost prohibitive, with this developer, I still think they should put something that really divides that, not just the stripes. So if they can't, create the curve or it's cost prohibitive, something definitely has to be there that will prevent cars from jumping over, because that's just my concern that someone's gonna hit somebody and we're gonna have a lot of accidents there.
Yeah, and I think that we should continue with the landscape plan. I don't see no other option in terms of how this is gonna work. I think this is gonna work fine. So I think that we should stipulate that they go ahead and improve the landscape part on the east side of the drive-through.
Then if the commission would like to do that, maybe if you want to add flexibility to that condition, because after what you're talking about is they're trying to not interrupt the drive-through service too much. So even if there was some phasing they had to consider.
You got 24 hours, midnight from 12 to 8 in the morning. So there's different options. I mean,
Just so that
working.
maybe there's a way to work with them, just in case. I don't know if a phase approach is a better option for them and it allows them to kind of keep everything going.
Yeah, they
But
can
still do it.
I see what they did, the improvements last time, they were working,
Yeah.
after hours. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's a consideration.
Yeah. Or even if they have, a phased approach where they finish their project first. Either way, they're gonna have to stall their drive-through. It doesn't, there's no back and forth. It's either you do it all at once and you stop for the time that it's gonna to build it everything properly, or
even if you stage it, you have to do it at a non-busy time where the McDonald's, but the McDonald's is always busy. Like 8 AM in the morning, 12, like it's always there's always a cars building up. So it's, what would work best for them? But what do they think would be best? But that has to get,
I think they could close one lane down and use one lane, improve this side, and then close the other lane and improve the opposite side.
Mm.
That would be an option. That's what I would recommend.
I think just having the flexibility though in our recommendation, give the option for staff and for them
Yeah.
to work it out and figure out what's best for them and make both parties happy. I think that would be our best route
that would be the
to
best,
include that.
to allow flexibility from staff.
Yeah.
So that said, the motion is approve resolution number PC 2022-26, approving conditional use permit number 358 and amendment to architecture review number 15-12 at the McDonald's eating establishment located on 50090 Cesar Chavez Street, subject to the findings and condition and approval contained in the resolution, in addition to adding the continuance of the curve with the landscaping, with the ability and staff to work with the applicant to ensure best procedures for the building of that.
I think also they had said that they didn't want to put this in because they were looking at a possible second option, but I think realistically, this is probably going to be the best option possible. And I think that we should stipulate that they also include that way. It looks finished and it's going to be nice.
Yeah, and that too. Also, because with this one, you're gonna mirror the Starbucks.
Yeah.
And you'll have, when you drive in, you have two really nice,
Yeah, it looks completed.
looks completed, so.
One of the, I want to point out, based on one of those comments, commissioners, is condition 6 says that if the city engineer determines that the new drive-through configuration under the CUP negatively affects traffic, then then the city engineer would be able to work with the applicant to make the adjustments necessary, if either temporary or permanent modification. That's okay.
That's fine.
Okay.
This motion.
Could you read back the motion?
Again.
Okay. Yeah, just approving the project as proposed, but with the modification that there include the landscaping and concrete curbing separating the drive-through from the parking area, and allowing the applicant to work with staff on the phasing of that improvement.
You're good with that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll clean up the language a little bit.
Okay.
After the meeting, but
Yeah, I would like to second that motion.
roll call. Commissioner Leal,
Aye.
Commissioner Gutierrez,
Aye.
Commissioner Gonzalez,
All right,
Commissioner Figueroa,
Aye.
Vice Chair Navarrete.
Aye.
Chair Buchan is absent.
Motion passes. Now we're on to item number 4, the Coachella General Conditional Use Permit, number 357.
Okay, yeah, thank you, commissioners. This item's real quick. It's just requesting that there be a continuance for this item, which is a proposal for alcohol service at the old Chamber Building on 6th Street, which would be a future coffee roastery and a wine and beer lounge. And so they need a type 41 license, but this item needs to be continued for noticing purposes. And so that would be continued to the meeting of December 7th.
who's the applicant? Yep.
The applicant is Steven Garcia and Teddy Lee.
Who's that, Coachella Coffee? Or-
Across the street.
Okay,
If it's
Where at?
up the street. On where the old Chamber of Commerce used to be.
Oh,
That's that building.
So do we have to make a motion or anything on the?
Yes.
On the continuance?
So motion to continue the item for the next December 7th.
Mhm.
2022.
I'll second Commissioner Figueroa's motion.
Okay, Commissioner Liad,
Aye.
Commissioner Gutierrez,
Aye.
Commissioner Gonzalez,
Aye.
Commissioner Figueroa.
Aye.
Vice Chair Navarrete,
Aye.
Chair Virgen is absent. Motion passes. Do you want me to go into it? Sure.
Oh,
Oh.
I was like. I zoomed in. Right, so now we're on to item number 5, City of Coachella 6 cycle housing element.
So Commissioners, this item, we are preparing the 6 cycle housing element. And we anticipated this would be ready to go to the Plan Commission, but we are still waiting for comments from the State Department of Housing and Community Development. So once we have those comments back, hopefully everything's good to go. It'll be back to Plan Commission, but I don't anticipate that's going to be until January 18th. So I just recommend continue it to that date,
Motion
2023.
Motion to continue this item until the meeting of January 18, 2023. Per staff recommendation.
Second.
Roll call, Commissioner Liad,
Aye.
Commissioner Gutierrez,
Aye.
Commissioner Gonzalez,
Aye.
Commissioner Figueroa.
Aye.
Vice Chair Navarrete,
Aye.
Chair Virgen is absent.
Now we wrap that up. We're gonna go into our informational. Gabe, do we have anything?
No items, just want to let you know, we don't have final election results, but looks like two of the commissioners here are in the lead. So I've been getting questions, well, what does that mean, right? If there's gonna be 2 vacancies, but there's also 2 other commissioners whose terms are gonna end up too. So those would continue until, results are certified. And then the council will have to call for receiving applications, right? So it's gonna take a little while. So just want to let you know that it's not gonna change immediately on the planning commission. So that takes some time. There's gonna be application process, and by the time we get new commissioners to fill the vacancies or to continue serving that role, probably be in 2023. That's all I have.
Next year.
So at 7:03 PM, I'm gonna go ahead and adjourn today's meeting.